This is the Bucks POSTCAST, your instant game reaction for the Milwaukee Bucks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
But there's a lot to break down as far as the Milwaukee Bucks game goes. A 107-97 loss tonight to the Boston Celtics. Butchie, I'll start with you. Let's get right into it. Your gut reaction today after the Bucks fall to the Boston Celtics 107-79.
Yeah, I think in general, you look at this team do they have enough talent on this team right now with Giannis? I think that was the biggest thing that I look at it with Brandon is as much as you look at it, the 79 points they scored is the now lowest that they've scored on the season. 82 points was that prior to that against Brooklyn, December 14th. So you look overall, Bobby Portis is 4 of 14. Kyle Kuzma is 5 of 13. Like, it's going to be a struggle. They're going to have to find ways to manufacture points. And that's just the reality of it. Now, defensively, that's what you've got to do. And you're going against a Boston team where their defensive rating was 11th in the league. They're averaging, only giving up 113. I think that's the biggest thing. And when you try to manufacture points, you got to try to create turnovers. Well, this Boston team doesn't turn it over. It's the fewest turnovers in the NBA, averaging 12. So when you do that, now all of a sudden you've got your hands full, and then that's exactly what this Milwaukee team did. I love the start they got off to. The 12-0 start was great. Gave this team some juice, but then the overall feel of where they were at just was much. It was a struggle. It just and I think the rest of the year will be a struggle as far as how do you manufacture enough points to stick around with teams.
Gary Harris, a later scratch in this one. Obviously, no Giannis for the Bucks. The live viewers, our everydayers on the YouTube chat, but you reminded me that our mics were muted for the beginning of the show. So welcome into the Locked On Bucks postcast. I'm glad you can join us. My apologies for the technical issue there over on YouTube. My name is Brandon Sneid. You heard him right there. The Wisconsin Badger legend himself, Brian Butch, with his initial thoughts after the Bucks lose 107-79. Real quick, friendly reminder, wherever you guys get audio podcasts, remember you can get Locked On Bucks postcast as well. From here on out, we'll be breaking down all the Bucks games, probably more losses than wins, spoiler alert, but we'll break it all down. And when we are live over on YouTube right now, so if you're over on YouTube, make sure you smash that subscribe button for me. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button and hit that notification bell at the top of the YouTube channel. Get notified when we go live. My apologies there for muting the mics. Butchie, great thoughts initially, because it couldn't have started out better today for the Milwaukee Bucks. You talked about the 12-0 run. It was an early Boston timeout. They were up at one point 13-3 in that first quarter. I put it on my Twitter account at Brandon_Sneid. Like, if you had to draw up a perfect start for the Milwaukee Bucks today, this was it, right? Bobby Portis was active early. Ryan Rollins got off to a good start. It's still, you knew it was eventually going to probably turn, Butchie. I mean, Boston started off missing. I mean, they couldn't hit Lake Michigan, from the shore if they were trying. So it was another issue, for this Bucks team where it felt like everything was going right. And then you look up at the scoreboard after the first quarter, Butchie, and it's tied 26-26. And you're like, oh man, I like that couldn't have started off any better. And then once again, you have a handful of bad turnovers in there if you're the Bucks fans, and you're allowing Boston to go on a little bit of a run, a 26-14 run to end that first quarter. Anthony Simons kind of picking it up because Jaylen Brown really wasn't doing a whole lot to begin this one for Boston. But I mean, that's what good teams do, right? Like you're able to weather the storm without your star best players being as active as they were. And Jaylen Brown got off to a slower start and picked it up into that second quarter. But Butchie, this is the issue I have with this team. And I think a lot of people are going to, obviously there's a lot of issues. You could probably begin with the coaching and Doc Rivers. AJ Green, not another bad game in the starting lineup for AJ Green, but it's the rebounding, Butchie. The 17 offensive rebounds for the Boston Celtics. I mean, the Bucks are out rebounded 51-40. It's a team that just doesn't rebound well. I'm not quite sure why. Maybe you can explain why. Like, I don't feel like they're outmanned as far as size and personnel when it comes to rebounding the basketball. But at one point, when Boston turned it on from that first quarter to that second quarter, they had 3 possessions in one spot. I mean, and that like, and they still didn't score the bucket for whatever it's worth. But that right there is the definition of insanity with this Milwaukee Bucks team. Is it's the same story, Butchie. It's the rebounding. They just cannot rebound the basketball.
Well, and this is something I'll say this, and I'm not a huge Doc. I think I don't think Doc is the right guy. I think there needs to be a change there, and then I think you need to evaluate the Giannis. And I've said I think this is Giannis's. Giannis has played his last game in a Bucks jersey. Now, Doc came out and said no, he's going to play for us, and had the interview beforehand. And whether you believe that or not, that's a different conversation to have. But I think for me, the biggest thing that I look at is overall, like, rebounding is not coaching. That's not a coaching thing. Like, you either have a team that is ingrained that you are going to crash the boards, or you have a bunch of soft guys. Like, Bobby Portis has 13 rebounds. Okay. But Kyle Kuzma, he's not a guy that's going to get in there and battle for rebounds. Miles Turner, he's trying to clean up all the penetration and all the drives. And he's that second help defender. And when you're the second help defender, you're not in rebounding position. So there's a lot of I'm getting beat. Now all of a sudden the help side comes. And that's why I think they've had a lot of those issues, is Miles Turner has had to try to clean up a lot of bad defensive possessions. And because of that, he's out of position. And it's not like AJ Green's going to rebound the basketball at a high level. Ryan Rollins isn't going to, rebound. Like, so that's when I look at this and I say, all right, you mentioned AJ Green. I think AJ.
I don't know where to go with him, man, because
I do.
I know. Yeah.
I mean, that's his role. His role is not a starter on an NBA team.
He had 2 points the last game we did, which was Thursday, I believe it was. Yeah. And then 3 points today, Butchie. 3 points in 29 minutes for AJ Green.
And I think AJ Green is a great piece for a team that you come on, you bring him off the bench, he knocks down some shots. Defensively, he's solid enough. But is he a starter? Is he a 29-minute a guy, rotation guy that you're counting on all the time? To me, no. Hey, not taking anything away from AJ Green. I think that kid has worked his what off to make himself the player that he is. He's got the second contract. Like, he did great. But you're not like it's not where he's at. Like, that's not his role. That shouldn't be his role on what a winning team is in the NBA. I mean, all you have to do is look out there and just realize that. And I think that, I've kind of seen that as far as AJ Green, where he's at. But in general, the talent's the biggest issue here, Brandon. I hate to say it like that, but you look at what this Boston team has done and what they're built on. They're going to make a lot of your flaws come out with the way that they have great ball pressure, with the way that they rebound the ball in the defensive end. They never beat themselves, this Boston team does. Like, they are coached at an elite level. So all of your flaws really come out in a game against Boston. And they did.
Yeah.
Like every flaw that Milwaukee
turnovers,
has,
rebounds, yeah.
Like, they came out. And it's because a lot of what Boston did and just how they've done that, and they weren't able, when you look at Milwaukee, they weren't able to turn over Boston, which they needed to get some easy buckets. They didn't win the possession battle. They force Milwaukee to play half court. Milwaukee in the half court's not good enough. That's the problem. Skill-wise, because in the NBA, half court means ISO at some point. You can run your set, but then you have to rely on shot makers.
Yeah.
And there's not enough shot makers. There's not enough individual shot makers.
I know we're not big, or at least I don't know if you are. I guess I'm not necessarily the telling the whole story with the plus or minus. AJ Green, a team low, minus 27. That passes the eye test, Butchie, for me, for AJ Green. Minus 27, 3 points for AJ Green, 1 for 5 from the field in 29 minutes. Let me ask you this, and this is more of a broader question. As the Bucks lose 107-79, their 5th straight, 8 of their last 9. When you look at this team without Giannis, without Kevin Porter Jr., and we don't know, there's, for whatever reason, no timetable on either one of those guys, which is another topic for another show. When you look at who we have, who is the number one scorer? Who should be the number one?
Yeah, that was asked during the ESPN broadcast, and I it was very interesting.
I wrote it down because I thought it was interesting as well.
Yeah, I was going to text you, and I don't know why I didn't. I forget, but I'm glad you brought it up.
Great minds think alike.
Now, Richard Jefferson came out and said it's Bobby Portis, and
that's why I wanted to bring it up.
And I said, "Oh boy, we can't if that." And this is why that's why my reaction is that. As an organization, it needs to be figured out, and that needs to be answered. To me, are you going to go all in on Ryan Rollins? Are you going to say, hey, Miles Turner, you're going to be with us for a long time. We're not going to look to move you. Or is everybody on the move? And you're now just waiting until after the trade deadline to figure out what you have. And I think that, to me, is maybe where this Milwaukee Bucks team is wait to the trade deadline and see if they are in a development and grow, because then you're going to say, hey, we're going to go with Ryan Rollins. He's our guy that we're going to build around and we're going to do some things with. But I look at this team and they don't have the answer. There isn't a go-to guy. They don't have one. And that's why you score 79 points. Your season low.
Hey, 26, you're 26 in the first quarter and you finished with 79. That's just not good.
That's my point though. When I look at this, there isn't a go-to guy.
No,
there just isn't.
There's
not. And that's the problem. When we've talked a lot about it, roster build has been an issue, and roster build is now coming out. I mean,
you're seeing it.
Yeah, and for me,
but I mean, in the same breath,
with Giannis, you're not going to win a lot of games with this roster.
Well, they were 15 and 15 with Giannis for those that are.
And Giannis is a top 3 player in the league.
Yeah.
So
it's a tough one as the Milwaukee Bucks lose 107-79. Mentioned it earlier. The Bucks did start off really hot in this one. Boston did not. So when did the game turn against our Milwaukee Bucks? And we'll break down our player of the game coming up right after this. Today's Locked On Bucks postcast is brought to you by Prize Picks. The big game is almost here, and there's no better way to cash in during America's biggest sporting event other than Prize Picks, where it's always good to be right. And this week, Prize Picks has a special max discount for the big game live in the app right now. Drake May just needs 1 passing yard for the max discount to win. Add another player to your lineup, and if your pick wins, you can cash in. Super simple to use. It takes no time to get started. The format is clean. Pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections. It always adds a little bit more fun to the games that we are already watching. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Today's episode is also brought to you by Gametime. There's nothing like being in an NBA arena, the crowd, the energy, the moment. Getting the tickets, though, that's kind of the headache. That part hasn't always been so simple. That's why Gametime has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast without the hassle. Puts the advantage back where it belongs with you, the fans. Pull up the Gametime app, pick an upcoming NBA game, and have tickets locked in with minutes. What I love about the app is I love seeing the all-in price up front. I love seeing the view from the seat before I purchase them. It takes all of the guesswork out of buying those NBA tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Once again, that's LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. And remember, it's Gametime, gametime.co, not .com. Gametime, your picks next. Today's Locked On Bucks postcast also brought to you by BetterHelp. February can be a lot: flowers, candy, stuffed animals, and so much to talk about relationship-wise. And it can honestly feel like everyone else has it all together in their love life. But here's the truth: whether you're married, you're dating, you're single, or just focusing on you, most people are still figuring it out. And no matter where you are in your romantic journey, therapy can help you find your way. It can help you get clear on what you want, what feels heavy, and how to take some pressure off of yourself. BetterHelp has licensed therapists in the U.S., and they do initial match working for you so you can focus on your goals. And if you want to switch therapists, you can do that anytime. Sign up and get 10% off at BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. That's BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. Thank you for making Locked On Bucks your first listen of the day each and every single day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcasting network. The Bucks falling once again, their 5th straight loss, a 107-97 loss on the road in Boston to those Celtics. It started off good. It just did not end well for the Milwaukee Bucks. Butchie, without further ado, let's get into our turning points in the Bucks 107-79 loss.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
Butchie, I'll let you lead us off here after the Bucks are now 18-29 on the season. They're 9-17 on the road after a 107-79 loss. Butchie, where or what is your turning point in this one?
Yeah, I think it started at the 4:39 mark in the second quarter. It's 40-42, and all of a sudden you look at Boston, and Walsh has a layup, then Brown gets the free throw, splits it, goes 1-2, but it's still 40-45. They give up another dunk. Now it's 40-47. They get a quick layup, the Bucks too, but then they give up a 3 to Boston. So now you're sitting out there 42-50. White gets a layup, 40-52 or 42-52. White gets another layup, 42-54, and then Brown gets one right before the half. So you go into half 42-56 when it was a 2-point game with 4:39. And for me, a lot of basketball in general, you want to close the half out the right way. You close the half out the right way, you go in the locker room feeling pretty comfortable. They started 12-0 run. Boston worked their way back. Now you're jockeying back and forth, but then you go down the half, in the half, down by 14. When it was a 2-point game with 4-some left, that to me is that turning point. And I don't think that this Bucks team has the mentality to climb out of a hole like that. I just don't. And I think because of that, now all of a sudden you're looking at a 31-point win or whatever the win was, but this league got as large as 31 points.
Yeah, it got out of hand very quickly. And for me, I kind of mentioned it earlier at the beginning of the show, and if you're tuning in, you're wondering if you didn't hear me at the beginning of the show, it's because our mics were muted, and I mentioned that the Bucks got off to a fast start, and that's my turning point, Butch. It's the first quarter, and I know people are going to look back and be like, well, the second quarter was really bad. They almost doubled you up in scoring, and the third quarter wasn't great, and the fourth quarter wasn't great. And the reason the first quarter for me is because it started off perfectly for the Milwaukee Bucks. You go up 12-0. At one point, it's 13-3. Boston has to call an early timeout. I mean, everybody seems to be doing their part in this one. You're getting those 50-50 balls. You're rebounding the basketball in the first quarter, that is. Boston's not shooting well. Jaylen Brown isn't shooting well. You're thinking, okay, this could be one where the Bucks just kind of sneak up and maybe get back right in the win column and get one on the road, a midday game out there in Boston. But then slowly it turned for the Bucks in the first quarter because Anthony Simons started to unleash the scoring threat for the Boston Celtics, and then Boston would end the first quarter after being down 12-0, would end the first quarter on a 26-14 run, and it would be tied at 26 apiece. And I knew in my head, Butchie, that was the best start the Bucks could have had. And 5 to 7 minutes later, it ended on a tie after the first quarter, and I knew that wasn't going to end well for the Milwaukee Bucks because we hadn't even seen really Jaylen Brown get going in this one. And it didn't take long for Jaylen Brown to get going in this one. He finished tonight with 30 points. So I knew in that moment that the Milwaukee Bucks, it was going to turn against them as they fall 107-79. Before we get out of here, win, lose, or draw, we got to do it. Our Locked On Bucks player of the game.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
Not many places you could probably go with this one, Butchie, as far as the Milwaukee Bucks. So we'll open it up to whoever you think deserves the Locked On Bucks player of the game in this one.
Yeah, I think it's, for me, you can either go Pete Nance just because of the energy again. Like I love that, but I'm gonna go Ryan Rollins. Just he's the only guy that has a decent shooting percentage, understanding the game, still playing. You look at 25, 6, and 7, like it's a pretty good night. Pretty good night for what you've got to do. And I know, there's that balance of where people think, Ryan Rollins is, but I mean, I'll say this, and this is where everyone wants to get on Doc, but having, the assistant coaches put the effort in with Ryan, there's a learning capability that he's really, improving as a player. And I think there is value in that. That's a really good night in the NBA, and Ryan Rollins played well this afternoon.
Yeah, if you want to look at a silver lining for this season, right, you can look at Ryan Rollins, who they mentioned on the ESPN broadcast, depending on where and how you watch the game. Maybe you listen to the radio. Could be up for the most improved player throughout the entire league. Yeah. So there's a lot. You're 18 and 29 on the season as Bucks fans. You don't know what your future looks like with Giannis. Kevin Porter Jr., you don't know when he's going to come back from the oblique injury. You look like you're in full tank mode. But if you want to look at something positive, you have to look at the job that the Bucks have done, and certainly what Ryan Rollins has done has come up in the last year and a half or so. I'll go on the other side, Butchie. I kind of made it part of my turning point, so I want to stick to that theme. And Anthony Simons, for me, is going to get the Locked On Bucks postcast player of the game. You come off the bench in 25 minutes and score 27 points, and a big chunk of that is getting your team back into the mix in that first quarter. And I hate to say that on the Locked On Bucks postcast that a Boston Celtic is the Locked On Bucks postcast player of the game. But man, what he was able to do for that team, it got them going. I mentioned Jaylen Brown didn't get off to a super hot start, but he obviously quickly turned it on. But Simons leading the team second in scoring today. Jaylen Brown had 30, he had 27. I think that's the difference, in this one is what you're going to get from Jaylen Brown most nights. You know what you're going to get from Derek White. You know what you're going to get out of those guys. But it's what they, what that bench did for Boston in this one. And like you said, Boston does everything quite well. And if you're lacking in certain areas, and the Bucks certainly were with the turnovers and the rebounding, they're going to make you pay for it. And you give them second and third opportunities to score points in one possession. You saw exactly what happened today. And Anthony Simons getting my Locked On Bucks postcast player of the game. The Bucks dropping their 5th straight 8 of their last 9, 107-79. They'll come back home in a couple of days. They'll take on the Chicago Bulls. Butch and I will go live right after that final whistle. Remember, wherever you guys get audio podcasts, you can listen now to the Locked On Bucks postcast. Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you download podcasts, you can listen to the Locked On Bucks postcast. We are free and available wherever you guys get audio podcasts. We're also over on YouTube, where we're live right now talking about the Bucks 107-79 loss. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on the Locked On Bucks YouTube channel. You get Justin, you get Camille all week long on the Daily Show, and then you get Butchie and I on the post-game show just for a little extra Bucks content as we search for answers on what seems to be this lost season. Thanks to each and every one of you guys for tuning in. Thank you for making Locked On Bucks part of your day each and every single day. Tough season rolls on, another tough loss for our Bucks. We'll be back on Tuesday breaking down the Bucks and the Bulls post game. Win, lose, or draw. As always, guys, stay Locked On Bucks.